So what are we going to do today? So for each, got a folder on D2L. And in each folder, you'll find kind of each one look pretty similar to what we've got here. So we'll have the learning objectives of what kind of our plan, what we're hoping to achieve each week, some learning activities of what we're going to be doing. And then down at the bottom, there's a checklist reminding you kind of what you should have done by Monday of the following week. Okay. So what we'll do today, get to know each other a little bit. As I said, we're going to be in class not only this semester, but we'll be in class next semester. One of the things I really like to do, I like to try to get to know the students. It's a better learning experience for everybody. But also, I want to hopefully stay connected to you and be able to help you and be a resource for you as you finish your time at Georgian and move on to Lakehead and then move into your career. So we'll talk a bit about that. So I'll tell you a bit about myself. I'll get to know a little bit about you. And then we're going to do kind of a really high level overview of our technology stack. We'll look at some of the software. I did send out an email, an announcement posting the links that you needed. Okay, Megan, you asked a question about your audio settings. So where can you check your audio settings? Let's see, I've got my screen shared right now, which may make it a bit tricky. There should be a settings button near the bottom for your audio, and it should allow you to choose what your speaker is. Yeah, thanks, Adil. Yeah, so it's the arrow beside the microphone button. If you click that, it should bring up a settings similar to this. And you can choose the audio output device, and you can also adjust the volume and test it. So try that. And see if that works. Okay, so I'll zoom in a little bit. Just a little bit about me. As I said, we are going to get to know each other a bit. So you may want to know, who am I? Why am I teaching the class? So basically, web development has been what I've been doing for quite a while now. Entering 2021, so 22 years as a web developer. Done a lot of different stuff in my career. Over this time, mostly the person I worked for was that guy. He was my boss. So for a long time, for many years, my main occupation, I was self-employed. I ran my own web development company. And I do still have the company, but I only really kind of do it as a side gig right now. A lot of people say in front of the net sounds like a hockey company. My daughters both played hockey, but the business is actually web development. So what kind of stuff have I done? A lot of commercial development, built social media apps, done a lot in the e-commerce space, and also a lot of work in the not-for-profit sector over the years. In 21 years, pretty much anything under the sun I've had a chance to stick my fingers in. So many of you, I'm sure if we were to join back and have a meet up again in 5 or 6 years, a number of you in this class will wind up being web developers. So, why choose it? It's a challenging career. Every day, you have to think. So you're not bored. You're always learning new things. Lots of great job opportunities in this area. Oftentimes we work from home. We make our own hours. And compared to a lot of ways that people earn, being a web developer is a great job. So how did I get into this? Web developers are not born. So you're thinking I have a degree in computer science that all of you are working towards. I do have a university degree, but actually it's in political science. I'm also, like you, I've gone back to school. I'm also doing another degree online. So I'm currently just finishing up my master's in education at Ontario Tech University. So like you, I have the full experience of what it's like to be a student right now and to be taking fully online classes. So this would be, been working on this for about 3 years. This is my final semester at Ontario Tech. So how did I get into this with a degree in political science? Well, once I graduated, I did some traveling. I moved to South Korea and I had my first teaching job as an English teacher. Did that for a while. Eventually, I came back to my hometown. I went back to school, did a training course for 9 months, and came out, started looking for a job, found a job as a web developer, and went to work. Was working for an IT consulting company in Toronto. They had some big clients. Toronto General Hospital was one of their clients. They also had a client that they're not in business anymore, but they used to buy old airplanes and turn them into luxury aircraft. And they had contracts with a number of professional sports teams to fly the teams to all their games around the continent. We also built an application for people with diabetes so that they could talk to their doctor using a kind of a first generation of what was called a PDA, a personal digital assistant, kind of a precursor to modern mobile phones. It was a great job as a new graduate. I did interesting work, like my boss, got along with my friends at work, could make my own hours. Sometimes they let me work from home. And every couple of weeks, I got one of these, which was a great way to start my career. But this application that we built, this diabetes application, it was really popular, but there was an issue with it, which is that my boss never actually figured out how he would make any money from it. Money doesn't grow on trees. Ultimately, his company went bankrupt and his development team, including me, got laid off, lost their jobs. I did learn something, a really valuable takeaway, which is you can have lots of great ideas, but your ideas are useless if there's no revenue attached to them. So I was unemployed. What did I do? Started looking for jobs. By then, I had a network of clients and coworkers, and people started asking me if I could do work for them. I said, yep, put my developer hat on, went back to work. And this time, it went great. Why? Well, I was the boss. Could work from my home office, take on projects that I liked, was always learning new things. I made a decent income, kept my own schedule. So those are some of the good sides. And I'm sure many of you at some point in your careers, you're going to wind up being your own bosses, being self-employed. Is that anybody in here where that's really what you're shooting for one day, run your own business? Yep, Adil, you'd like to do it? Yep, Mark? I'm sure there's a good percentage of you at some point. Mason, yeah, a lot of people. Okay, so I've given you kind of the good side, right? You know, you have your own boss, you take on your own projects, you work where and when you want. That's the good stuff. Here's the downside of being self-employed. Number one, those biweekly paychecks, those are gone, right? When the economy slows down, it can be harder to find projects. You have no benefits. Things like health insurance, you don't get any paid vacation time, and it's stressful. So that's the downside. So some of my clients over the years I worked for Walmart Canada, Legal Aid Ontario, and a number of the community legal clinics around the province. I've had clients in transportation, in real estate, engineering, among others. So the big challenges for running your own business, like I said, there's no steady income. It makes budgeting hard. How do you apply for a mortgage or get rent? You don't know month to month how much money you're going to make. Planning is difficult because there's times when you're super busy and times when you don't have enough work. You're also working all the time. When I was self-employed, I would say to get off my computer at 10 p.m., that was an early night. And it's difficult because I always felt like I should be working. There was always stuff to do. So it's hard to get away from it when you're your own boss. So a typical day in the life of a self-employed developer. You get a lot of email. One year I decided to count how many emails I got from the project manager at my biggest client during their busy season, which was just before Christmas. Anybody want to guess on average how many emails I got from one client per day in their busy time of year? Okay, Megan and Jacob, not 100. Luke, you're the closest. So they averaged for 6 weeks, every single day, I averaged 24 new messages a day from their project manager. So you can imagine how much time that eats up to read 24 messages from one client, address the items in there, and respond. You spend a lot of time doing this. Obviously, you're going to spend time writing code and developing applications. You got to answer phone calls. You get to quote for new projects, because even if you got projects today, you got to be quoting for the next round of business down the road. You're planning projects. You got to serve as the tech support line for your customers when they need help, and you have to stay on top of new technology. You don't have a boss or a supervisor teaching you new stuff. It's now on you to learn new stuff. So you can see what I mean. You are never bored when you are a self-employed developer. So some of the things to help you succeed, what are the important skills? You've got to want to think logically and solve problems. Okay? It's also largely about being able to learn independently. Everything we teach you here at Georgian and at Lakehead, 5 years, 10 years from now, it's going to be obsolete. So you're going to have to, there's going to be new technologies that replace the things you guys are learning, and you're going to have to learn how to learn new things on your own. Right? Really, the job is about figuring things out. We meet with a client says, I have a problem, either there's things I want to be able to do I can't do, or we have really inefficient ways of doing things, and we want to pay you to build a technology solution that make our lives easier. Okay. So, and this is probably the most underrated skill, which is your ability to listen. Okay. Doesn't matter if you're a great developer, if the solutions you develop don't actually solve the problems they were intended to. Okay. So, I'm not sure if have you guys had a class with Jarrett Wright yet? Or do you have them this semester? You have Jarrett. Okay, great, for Java. And Jarrett loves to say, and I'm sure you're all going to hear him say it, the number one mistake developers make is not reading the requirements properly. Okay, so he and I were both really big on that. We lay out requirements as clearly as we can, but then we put it to you as students. If there's anything you don't understand about what you're supposed to do, then you need to come to us and ask and get clarification so that you don't go down the wrong path. Managing your time is also a big one, okay? Application development is kind of a project-driven business, and projects typically have an end date when things have to be ready. So we'll talk a bit more about this, okay, and meeting deadlines. And I'll give you an example of what I faced like this. Okay? So at one point years ago, my company, we had built part of Walmart Canada's online photo center. And we had agreed, we had a contract with a very strict deadline. The reason was Walmart had a weekly electronic newsletter, which they sent to 85,000 Canadians each week. And they needed to be able to publish when the new features in their photo center were going to be going online. So they wanted to know, they needed a guaranteed date when the new photo center was going to be online. So imagine what happens. They tell 85,000 customers this new website's going to be ready on a certain day. And the day before, I contact the project manager at Walmart and say, things aren't working. We're behind. We had other projects to do and we need more time. You can probably imagine what their reaction would be. which would be, get out of here, we're going to go find another supplier. So we'll go over the syllabus for the course in a bit, but I will talk about deadlines and late policies. And that's really in relation to this. This is the reality of being a professional developer. There's times where we're going to have to commit to dates and do what we need to deliver. In terms of job opportunities, I always like to take a quick survey at the beginning of the semester. So I went to Indeed the other day. I threw in the terms web developer in Ontario. And currently it found 1,646 jobs open. Pretty good. I think these are also just posted in the last 30 days. That's on one site. Keep in mind, many jobs are never posted on boards like this, so there's a lot of opportunity in this area. And remember, the job is portable, so you're not limited to, working in Ontario. You want to work here, you want to work here, you want to work here. All the skills we're going to give you, they can go anywhere. As long as you got a computer, you have an internet connection, you're good to go. In terms of salaries, anybody have a guess what the average web developer salary in Ontario is according to Indeed right now? Jake said 60. Any other guesses? 80? 100? All right, well, let's have a look. 70? Yeah, you guys are in the ballpark. So this was the average. Now, obviously, it's not a starting salary. That's an average across experience levels, and also depends on where you are. Salaries in Greater Toronto area obviously are going to be higher because the cost of living is higher. But, you can make a pretty good living as a web developer. Absolutely, particularly if you have a bit of experience, you can be looking at salaries high five and into the six figures for experienced developers in the right environment. So you may be asking yourself, okay, Rich, well, if you had this career and you got to work from home in your pajamas and you made good money and did get interesting projects, why are you on a WebEx session teaching on a Tuesday afternoon? Which is an excellent question. So I did nothing but run my own business for over a dozen years. And after a while, I'm a fairly social person. I got tired of being at home all the time. I connected with Georgian and I said, hey, if you need anybody ever to teach a class or two, I'm happy to come in half a day a week and teach. So I started doing that back in 2010. And actually the PHP language that we're using, that was the first language I ever taught. I'd never even used it before at the time, back in January of 2010. And then I've been full-time faculty actually for the last 8 years, since 2012. So I do have my business, but I just kind of keep it on the side. Just to try to stay current, and because I have a few long-standing clients that I still do stuff with. All the big clients, I've farmed them out, including another one just before Christmas, which just got too big for me. So that's a bit about me, and we'll get to, as I said, you'll get to know me a bit better as we go along, and I want to give you guys a chance to. In a couple ways, let me get to know you a little bit. So if you did not already, at some point, if you can jump into the discussion thread. Okay, a few more people have answered. That's great. So a few questions about you. Where are you from? What course have you enjoyed the most? Any career goals you have? And then gave you a couple of other personal questions. So you don't have to fill that out right now. But if you could do that over the next day or two, that would be great. And I'll check those responses so that we can start to get to know each other better. Okay, I want to go over the plan for the course and make sure we're all kind of on the same page as to how the course runs and answer any questions you have around kind of rules and expectations, things like that. So the syllabus is posted. Actually, I'll just show a few items in D2L. So the syllabus you can find on D2L under course information. And then under weekly learning, I've got a new folder for every week. You can see what lesson it is and what the topic is. I also have a general folder which we'll poke around in a bit for links, tools, and resources. But the syllabus will be here under course info. So we're using an open source technology stack called the LAMP stack, stands for Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. We're not really using Linux, except for, I think it's, Jacob is probably using Linux, but Apache, MySQL, and PHP will run on any operating system. So if you're running on Mac OS, no problem. If you're running on Windows, that's fine. All our tools are free and open source for the class. Okay. My office hours, the same link as the class, so you don't have to remember different links. I realized that Lakehead uses Zoom and it's integrated into D2L. I'm going to use WebEx just to keep it simple for a couple reasons. Number one, Zoom didn't work very well for us last semester. Number two, the Zoom links are really cryptic. And when we work within WebEx, the URL to always find our classroom and my office hours is really simple, which I prefer. So I've got two different blocks of office hours each week. So Tuesday mornings and Thursday mornings from 9 to 11. If these times don't work for you and you want to have a meeting another time, then please send me an email and we'll set up an appointment another time. I do ask as well that you use Calendly to book. Some of you may have used this before with some of the other profs. So the neat thing about Calendly is it lets you go in and book a meeting. So you can book one 15-minute meeting and then it automatically adds the meeting to my Outlook calendar as well as to your calendar. Okay. If you delete the meeting again, okay, good to know, Luke. Thank you. Let me fix that. I apologize. Let me delete that one. And I appreciate that. Anytime in class, something's not working or you can't follow along, by all means, let me know in the chat or even turn on your mic. You're free to use your mics in class. Okay. So if you refresh the course information, here's the current syllabus. So I do ask that you do book, and that way you won't be coming to office hours and kind of waiting your turn. You can book an appointment ahead of time. You know exactly when we'll have time to meet. Communication policy. I do want to point this out. I do not live on my phone or on my computer, so I don't respond to email 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Generally, during the week, you can expect a response within 24 hours. If you email me by like Friday afternoon, Friday evening into Monday, it typically is you should expect a response within 48 hours. So I wouldn't generally expect email responses over the weekend or in the evenings. And I'm in class myself doing my final couple master's classes Monday nights and Thursday nights. So again, I'm not going to be available to check emails those times. So I will try and reply quickly during the week. So here are the learning outcomes from the course. These are basically straight from the course outline. So we'll meet live every Tuesday. I will record the classes and I do upload them to YouTube. Typically it takes a couple hours after class is over for that to happen. And like I said, we'll probably be more like 2 hours a week with a break rather than a full 3 hours every week. And your study week is the week of Family Day. So mid-February, we will have no class. There is a final exam in the class, and we're just waiting. I'm waiting for Lakehead to schedule the date and time for that. It will be a 3-hour block where you are on WebEx. Okay, so everyone will be writing the exam at the same time. And I will post details around the date and time when that happens. So here's kind of how your grade breaks down. So we'll have 2 exams. So midterm after reading week, and it'll cover the first 5 weeks. Okay, and it's worth 15%. Final exam, also held online, worth 20%. Okay, and typically there are different versions of the exam. So, and I kind of randomize that. So similar exams, but not everyone will be doing the exact same exam. The rest of your marks for assignments, so you'll have a couple, maybe 2 or 3 short take-home labs. So an assignment you'll do on your own. And then we're also going to do some activities together in class, typically in small groups. And kind of the sum total of those will be worth 10%. So each of those small activities worth somewhere between 1% and 3% of your final grade. There are weekly quizzes. So at the end of today's class, I'll release a review quiz, just 5 multiple choice questions, and the quizzes are due the following week on Monday. So you have 6 days to do the quiz. Each quiz basically is also worth about 1%. It's actually a good idea to do the quizzes a little closer to next week's class. So as a review before you come into class next week. And then we'll have 2 assignments, 15 and 30%. You only get 1 attempt, but the quizzes are not very difficult. Okay, the idea really is just a way of doing a quick review before the next class. And obviously they're open book because you can do them at home. So you have access to all the material. 5 questions, you get 15 minutes. So 3 minutes per question, open book. So really pretty close to an easy 10%. I think I've posted these already. So I recommend PHP Storm. I find it tends to be the best code editor. If you want to use Visual Studio Code or another text editor in this class, you're perfectly welcome to. But I am going to use PHP Storm. Okay. Here's our schedule. We may alter it a little bit, but we'll probably be able to stick pretty close to this schedule. So today we'll do an intro at a high level. We'll start working with data in a database next week. And your first assignment will be due in early February before reading week. Our midterm exam will be after reading week. So in week 7, we'll have the midterm. That will be the only thing going on in class that week. And as I said, I'll post the exam, date and time once we know when that is. So how do you do well in the class? Well, number 1, if you're already in the WebEx room, you're doing the most important thing, which is show up. You do have the option to complete the class asynchronously. I know some of you may be in a different part of the world, different time zone. And if that's the case, that's fine. As I said, I will record all the classes and put them on YouTube. However, you lose the ability to interact in real time with your classmates, ask questions from me, get help in real time. So it's not recommended. If you can be in the live WebEx sessions, you're going to learn more. You're going to have a better experience all around. So I would strongly encourage you to be here in the WebEx room each week as much as possible. Please make sure you check D2L regularly and stay plugged into your email. Obviously, we don't see each other in person, so email really is the best way I have to reach you. Okay. Do all the assignments. So there's lots of assignments, lots of small items. So if you simply submit everything, you should have no trouble passing the course. The only people who don't pass this course are people who don't submit all the work. Okay. And please submit on time so that you get the most marks possible for every assignment. And also, I try to give you lots of time to do the assignments, so you have time to email me or come to office hours if you need help. Okay. If you leave things to the last minute, by then it's usually too late to get help. Okay, I will talk about this one because I deal with this every semester. Okay, where is it? Here. With the possible exception of a few in-class activities that are worth like 1%, there's no group work in the course. All your other assignments are individual. So you'll be meeting to Jarrett tomorrow. Jarrett is a big charts guy. Jarrett loves charts. So here is every semester dating back to 2012. How many academic misconducts I've had in my classes. So last semester wasn't terrible. It wasn't the worst. One assignment very clearly was a student submitting my own work back to me that even included my own comments. At least he admitted to it. He took a 0. I had 2 other students cheat during a final exam where one student actually submitted the other student's exam for them with their own name on it. I kid you not. So there's no real tolerance for it. There's no warnings. If you submit work that is clearly not your own, yeah, that was the semester from hell. Yeah, 16. If you submit work that is clearly not your own, I'm probably going to know about it. I've got code comparison software for checking. And one of the other things I do is, not only do I check your work, but if you submit work that I suspect may not be entirely yours, then your grade is subject to a code review. So you come to office hours, we have a meeting, and I ask you questions and ask you to explain anything in the work you've submitted. I once had a student who didn't even know how to start their project. They gave me a super advanced project that couldn't even start the server during a code review. So if you give me work that doesn't kind of match the rest of the work you've been doing through the semester, we're going to have a code review where you're going to show me that you understand what you've submitted. Okay? A couple of other points about grading. You do need to earn. I don't give you the marks, you earn the marks. Okay, so you need to earn a 50%. If you get a 45, then your mark is a 45. Okay? So I don't offer makeup assignments or allow you to submit work you didn't do at the end of the semester. So it happens every semester. I give students who fail, but not by a lot, but they fail largely because they didn't do all the work. And then they want to go ahead and have me mark things that were due a long time ago. That's not fair to everybody else who's already done the work on time. So I just have a blanket policy of no makeup assignments and no late assignments at the end of the semester. So I try to give you lots of time. I will help you by email, by office hours, or otherwise scheduled appointment. All your assignments will be due at 5 o'clock on a Monday. Okay, and that's so that you finish the assignment at a reasonable time the day before we have our class. If you submit an assignment after 5 o'clock on the day it's due, then I'll deduct 20% of your grade each day. Okay. I know that's a steep penalty. It's steeper than a lot of other faculty. That's by design for the reasons I talked about earlier, that we live in a deadline-driven business. If I hired students, and I've hired many students to work for me in the past, if they do great work, but I can't count on them to do it on time, I don't keep them. Okay. So we're trying to, I'm trying to prepare you for that reality of the work world, that your bosses, your clients are going to expect that you can not only do good quality work, but you can have things ready on time. That said, I'm not an unreasonable person. Things happen. If you do need extra time, then what I ask is a couple things. Have a good reason for it and let me know in advance why you need more time and we can talk about it. Okay. But just so you know, having lots of projects or having computer problems, I don't generally consider those reasons to give students more time. Okay? And certainly if you have an illness or emergency and you have documentation, then please provide that. And yeah, absolutely, we can work out something reasonable. Does anybody have any questions around those guidelines? I know each instructor may be a little bit different, so that may be similar or different from kind of what you guys got used to last semester. Your contacts are in here as well. So Becca Allen is your student advisor. You can reach her here. The chair at Lakehead. Our new program coordinator is Amanda Clare. She's taking over for Ross, who's moved on to the be coordinator for the new AI program. Okay, and some other resources and supports for you here. I also do want to point out this link, probably more important than ever, which is counseling services. If you're having challenges outside of school, then Georgian has a fantastic counseling department. It's free for you as a Georgian student. They will do, obviously, remote appointments. When I surveyed my classes last semester, I had students in every class saying they were having certain challenges outside of school that they needed help with. So please, make good use of the great counseling team that we have here at the college if you do need them for any reason, for any help outside of school. I understand life happens, okay, and it can affect you here at school. So please make use of that excellent resource when you can, or when you need to. Okay, are there any questions from anybody about kind of how the course is going to run, any of the rules, policies, anything you're curious about? By all means, you can use your mic, use the chat. If there's anything you'd like to know. Sorry, Taryn, the syllabus isn't there? It should be available. Yeah, you just have to refresh course information. Ivan, yes, the due dates for the assignments will show up as 5 p.m. on D2L. Yes. Yep, same for the quizzes. So for example, our first quiz, so the week 1 quiz will be in the week 2 folder. So if you go into the lesson 2 folder, so the week 1 review quiz, so it'll open today at 5 o'clock, and you have until next Monday, and it will show in the calendar as 5 o'clock. So if you just get in your mind, everything in this class, it's always due 5 o'clock on Monday. But I have marked it all that way in D2L as well, so there's no confusion. Are there any other questions from anybody else? Okay, if not, I'm just going to show you a few other items here on D2L. So under links, tools, and resources, Adil, great question. The best place, yes, in fact. Not necessarily reading. Actually, Adil, you know what? I'm going to show a few things on here, and then I'm going to come back to your question, okay? Because there is another additional resource here. So I create a separate playlist for every section of the class. So all our WebEx recordings, they're going to go in here. In fact, if you want to see, a lot of what we'll do in class will be similar to the course that I ran last winter, in winter 20. So actually all my lessons are on YouTube. So actually I'll just pull up the channel for a minute. I know I am not monetizing it, so it's not a paid plug. But actually, even before we started doing online classes due to COVID, I've actually been recording, I record all my on-campus in-class lessons as well. And I've actually been doing that since 2015. So you can see if you go to playlists, you can actually see, so here is the playlist for last semester, the COMP1006G, winter 2020. So if you want a bit of a sneak preview as to what we'll be doing in a future lesson, you can always check the playlist from last semester. Again, I'll update things, but a lot of the course is the same. And I've got all my playlists here. Yeah, right back to the summer of 2015. So all my classes are here where I screen share and put on YouTube. Also, the source code, all the source code from every week, at the end of each week's class, all the source code that we do in class will be made available here on GitHub. Okay, so I'll publish it. So if you miss a class or you're working asynchronously, the screencast will be on YouTube and the code that we do in class will be up on GitHub. And all my code in all my classes is here on GitHub. Just an idea, so I know, did you guys work with Git and GitHub at all last semester in any of your courses, or would that be new for most people? Okay. All right. Good to know. Then I have a bunch of resources. Sometimes when students come to this class, they've already done it in semester one. Often depends who your instructor for programming fundamentals was. I believe you guys had, was it Ben? Yeah, Ben's a great teacher, great guy. So we will definitely focus on GitHub. All of your assignments, got it, okay. All of your assignments for me, as well as in Jarrett's class and many other your instructors' classes, you'll post your code to GitHub. So it takes a little, and this is an industry standard tool that a lot of us use. So we're going to learn how to use GitHub. I may modify the syllabus a little bit to make sure we have time for this because it's absolutely critical, but it's great. It does a ton of stuff for us. Okay, so we'll talk about that. So you can find my code from each lesson on GitHub. So the link is here. Now, I believe you guys already have AWS accounts from last semester. I spoke to our computer studies technician, Ali. He said he submitted those. Did you guys use the AWS web server at all last semester? Okay, great. So probably most of you already have the OpenVPN client and your AWS credentials set up. Great. Okay, because we'll be using those again this semester. So I have posted the instructions here, how to connect, but you guys, yeah, it would be the same profile, all the same stuff. Yeah, it should be working. Shouldn't be changed. The PHP, I've put up here the link to the language reference. So these are the official docs and some other stuff. I've also given you, and Adil, this is coming back to your question, which I'll answer in a couple parts. I've given you an optional project. So this is not something that I would grade, but in the past, I've had students say, you know, how do I do more practice? So I'll have to re-upload this. Okay. So there's a description in here of a project you can build using PHP for practice. So build an online time tracker for a company. This wouldn't be something I would mark, but it'd be a way for you to get some practice. The other place you could go, or I'd highly recommend, is, and I'll put this link in the chat. Has anybody used LinkedIn Learning at all? Megan, you have, yeah, LinkedIn Learning, which you have access to with your Georgian credential. So it used to be called lynda.com, and LinkedIn bought, which is owned by Microsoft now, bought it. And LinkedIn has a fantastic video training series in all kinds of topics, not just technology. So for example, this summer, last semester, I was teaching Android for the third time, but I'm not an Android expert. So I went in and I did over the summer all of the Android courses on LinkedIn Learning. So if we look at PHP here, there are actually 59 courses, and the courses typically run from, anywhere from an hour to 4 or 5 hours. So something like PHP Essential Training or Learn. So, and they're also updated frequently. So here's a 4-hour course. So it's kind of like a video tutorial done by an industry expert. They've got like learning files. And it's basically a follow along. So it's a great resource, not only for learning PHP, but really for learning anything tech related. So whatever you might want to learn, you can find it. Normally, LinkedIn Learning is a paid service, but as a Georgian student, you have access. So you just have to sign in here, and you can bookmark courses that you want to do. It shows you what courses you've finished. So this is a great resource. So I was updating my ASP.NET skills again last spring, so I did a bunch of courses on that. So great resource for you. So deal that would be probably the number one place I would go. The other link that I put up, I think I put it up on the homepage of the course. There is an announcement here as well, but I'll put this link in the chat, which is our LinkedIn group. So I'm not a big social media guy with the exception of LinkedIn, which I use for teaching purposes and for students. So we've got a great group on LinkedIn. We have almost 200 members. So the membership here is other computer studies faculty, it's other computer studies students in the different programs, in computer programmer, in web, big data, AI, computer networking, and we have a lot of graduates. So we use this group to post any relevant industry stuff, but this is also where we post job opportunities. So I actually posted these just in the last couple of days. Yep, computer security as well. So many of our former graduates will post in this group. So I've shared posts from Sukhdeep, who graduated about 5 or 6 years ago, and Jamie Kelly, who also graduated from our web program a few years ago, and he went to work for Tesla in California. So both of them have reached out and said, hey, my company's hiring. So can you post this in the group for Georgian students? So anybody can request to join the group. So I would highly recommend you join. It's a way to stay connected, to find job opportunities, and also for you to do some networking with other Georgian students and Georgian grads who have all been through one of the different computer studies programs. So I use this to keep in touch with graduates all the time, check in, give job references. Many times our graduates are coming to us to hire co-op students, etc. So it's a great resource. Stay plugged into the group. You just have to request to join. But it's a great resource. I post stuff. Jarrett, Ross, Ian, Scott, a lot of the other faculty post in this group regularly. So I would highly recommend joining the group. Okay, well, I think we managed for the most part I managed to do all of the introduction kind of to the course that I wanted to accomplish in the first hour of class. So it's 2:52 by my clock. So what I'm going to propose is let's take a 10-minute break here. And when we come back, we'll do a very high-level overview of the PHP language and maybe try and write 1 or 2 really simple PHP pages before we get out of here today. So I'm going to stop my screen share, stop my recording. I'm going to get up and stretch my legs, and I want all of you to do the same. Go get out of your chairs for 10 minutes. It's too long to sit for 2 hours straight. So we will come back in 10 minutes.